Years ago, I heard a man speak about the power of these two short phrases, thank you and congratulations, and how they had changed his life. I spoke to people several times a day, and until I heard him speak, I hadn't thought about the effects these phrases had on others. I said them because my parents told me to when I was young. Mind your manners, they'd say, or if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Not sure how many of you guys have heard that before, but maybe you even live by them. So something in his talk really clicked with me. I realized that I was uncomfortable with praise and compliments, and I had difficulty accepting other people's joy and blessings. I was constantly comparing myself to others, and I wished I could be or have what they had. I didn't believe people were sincere when they complimented me. I figured they must want something. And when I was thanked for something I did well, I felt that it was wrong to take pride for more than a brief moment, because pride would lead to boasting, and that was disrespectful and something to be ashamed of. You may find this strange, and I know not everyone deals with this, but through my interactions with people over time, you would be surprised how many people are uncomfortable with compliments, mistrust others, and compare themselves, wishing secretly that they could have, be, or do everything others are. I have studied people my entire life, and I'm yet to find one person who is free of some kind of issue like this that they've had to overcome. So I decided to try this man's advice and adopt these two phrases into my life. I looked for opportunities to say congratulations and thank you whenever I could. It was highly uncomfortable at first. I noticed sometimes when I said either of them, I felt like I was lying. However, wonderful and crazy things came about from incorporating these two habits, these phrases into my life as habits. Over time, I began to notice the great things about me and became proud. I even became proud to be proud. I accepted people's praise and appreciated it. And I learned to appreciate others in new ways and communicate with them. I also learned to keep my mouth shut when it wasn't appropriate to say things. And I will admit that I still say inappropriate things periodically, but I do very well compared to how I used to be. So there's another thing I can be proud of. And just a rule of thumb, if what you're about to say won't make the situation any better for anyone, in the long run, it may not be best to say that thing. And if it won't help at all, don't say it at all. Back at the time when I first heard this man speak, I was a teenager and I was like Chicken Little. I was fearful, scattering doom and gloom all over. I used to automatically assume the worst and say things that did not help a situation. For example, someone would get married and I would be thinking of their divorce. Or someone would get sick and I would think of the worst scenarios possible. And I wouldn't say it directly to the people, usually. But I'd talk about it with everybody else, which is just as bad. So everyone was doomed for failure. We lived in a terrible world. I am so glad that I've overcome all those beliefs, because on the other side of that, life is absolutely amazing and there's so much possibility, like, let me tell you. So when I started to say congratulations to people, in the back of my mind, like I said, I felt like I was lying. And it was tough for me to share in their enjoyment, but I kept saying congratulations and thank you at every opportunity. Soon, my jealousy and resentment began to disappear, and I started to really share in the enjoyment of others, and the world suddenly became way more beautiful. A lot of humans don't want to see others succeed because it's not them. But as one of my good friends says, a rising tide raises all ships. And from my observation with people, it's true. When we lift each other up and we congratulate and praise each other, it raises everyone up. We are literally raising the vibration of humanity and the world we live in with every single good thing we say, think, and do. So here's an example from my life. I used to be a volunteer coordinator for a nonprofit organization, and they were volunteers that would come in that other organizations had turned away because they seemed to lack skills or had difficulty understanding or communicating. Sometimes they couldn't keep the pace with the work environment. But I have a sincere belief that everyone is valuable and you just have to find out what their strengths are. So where others wouldn't spend the time, I took the time. And yes, I always found a way to get my work done too. I believe everyone has skills and potential, even if they themselves don't know it yet. And I've always felt it was my gift to help others see what they didn't see within themselves. and people need opportunities for opening up and discovering themselves. So this one day, an older gentleman with a very strong Colombian accent came into the office. It was so strong that he was difficult to understand. You would have to look him straight in the eye during a conversation to understand anything. I assumed he was a newcomer to Canada, and then I found out that he'd actually lived here for over 6 years and had taken several courses in English and still failed to get a job because of his language barrier. He continually passed courses, and people told him he was doing well. So he was perplexed as to why no one would hire him. He had a difficult time pronouncing basic words, and although he was highly educated, he felt like a failure. I knew he was unhappy in his life here because he could not find work to support his family that would keep him, challenge his intellect, skill set, and natural gifts. I got the impression people were being careful with him as opposed to being honest with him. There is a way to be careful, tactful, straightforward, and help others. It's through honest, sincere, and generous communication. He expected that I would turn him away too, and I assured him I wouldn't. I would find a place for him within the organization. I could have found him any grunt work job, but I knew ultimately he wanted work to satisfy his soul and provide for his family. So I asked him if I could work with him for a few minutes each day, and I volunteered to help him on his English. My boss worried that it would take too much time away from my work, but I believed otherwise. I paid attention to him when he spoke, and we tackled his most challenging and obvious sounds first. I would mouth the words several times and allow him to practice while he was in the office with me. I gave him writing assignments that I knew weren't going to be top-notch quality, but would give him the opportunities to practice for real practical work. We would review them together and he would learn. And because he didn't feel judged, he was happy to have somebody who was honest and generous with him. It took about 10 to 20 minutes out of each shift to work with him, but I always made sure I got my work done. And he was so respectful of my time because that was my only requirement for him to be able to work with me and vice versa. Within months, he got a job, and his new job turned out to be too physically demanding, but he continued to volunteer and build and practice his English communication skills. Before you knew it, he was hired for an administrative position that he loved. So fast forward years later, I'm no longer with the nonprofit organization, but he continues to volunteer periodically, and he's thanked me for taking the time and changing his life. This goes to show that a small contribution to somebody's life can make a world of difference. And do you know what I said when I received his thank you letter? I said, thank you. And do you know what I said when he got the job that he wanted? Of course, I said, congratulations. So your homework assignment today is to look around for any opportunities you can to say thank you and congratulations, and to do so. Scatter blessings and compliments in every direction today, and don't make them up. Recognize and compliment what pleases you. People may find it strange at first, and you may too, but you will be adding value to others and to your own life. So also set your timer for an hour and a half today so you can pay attention to your thoughts and continue to trash or delete your negative thoughts. By the end of this program, you should be living most of each day without negativity. Just keep upping your time each day and record what you notice from your homework assignment in your happiness notebook about how scattering blessings made you feel. I'll see you tomorrow.